And I'm welcoming now Jérôme. Jérôme from Polytechnique Montreal, and you will talk to us about unmanned aerial systems related activities in the Mobile Robotics and Autonomous Systems Laboratory. And I would say, isn't the whole region of Montreal somehow a laboratory? That's at least my experience now. You have the International Organization for Regulation there and so many companies. So I'm really excited to get to know more what you do at the Polytechnique Montreal. And we have your presentation here already.
Okay, so thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here. Hi everyone, so my name is Jérôme Lenny. I'm an associate professor at Polytechnique. I'm going to say just a few words about Polytechnique first. We're a fairly large engineering school with more than 8,000 students, and so we train a lot of the engineers in Quebec in particular. We are a very international school as well, with almost like 30% of international students. So we train both at the undergrad level, of course, and also at the grad level. So we have what we mean by training students is both through courses, especially at the undergrad level, and at the grad level, master's, PhD, more into research. We have a number of specialties for drones in particular. So I run a lab in robotics. So robotics is obviously very multidisciplinary, and so in particular we have programs in aerospace, electrical, software, and even industrial engineering, and so we get students from all these programs. So these students have different backgrounds, and they help on different aspects of the work. So we have an internship office, and my colleague Esther Cahouette just wants to say a few words about that. The students at Polytechnique have opportunities at the undergrad and grad level to do internships.
Hello everyone, my name is Esther Cahouette, and I'm responsible for the International Internships Program in Polytechnique Montreal, and we are trying to develop opportunities for our students, mainly undergraduate students at the master level. We have internships in France, in Japan, in USA, for example, and we are trying to develop contacts also in Germany with companies like in the drone industry. So today is a great opportunity for me to maybe have a chance to talk to German companies and try to establish partnerships. We already have something with MyTex and RISE Global Link, that RISE research internship in Germany, but we would like to expand to companies. So thank you very much, and hoping to talk to some of you. Thank you.
Okay, so let me move on to what I actually do. So we have, I'm a co-director of this lab called the Mobile Robotics and Autonomous Systems Laboratory at Polytechnique. We are 3 faculty members. I'm here, and David Saucier is here as well today, and we have a number of students, and some of them are here today as well. We have, a lab where we can run experiments. And aerial robotics is part of the activity that we have in the lab. At the level of a single vehicle, we're interested in most of the aspects of developing more autonomous robots, and in particular more autonomous aerial robots. And that can go from, so if you have the vehicle, from the vehicle to afterwards, aspects such as localization of the vehicle, and very importantly, the perception that the vehicle can have about the environment, and being able to form reasonable maps of what surrounds it. Then from this information, we are interested in things like planning, so planning this, decision making, and there's some uncertainty about this map that we have about the environment. And we also work on the actual flight control laws, various aspects such as robust control, fault-tolerant control, adaptive control, and so on. At the more system level after that, we also have activities in terms of multi-robot systems, and things like collaborative robotics. So if you're imagining, multi-drone systems supervised by a single operator, questions arise, such as, what kind of information should you provide to the operator, how you're going to handle the interaction between an operator and say, a swarm of aerial vehicles. So all these aspects are of interest to the group, and of course, it's a bit challenging because we need a lot of different expertise to tackle all these issues. So in the next few slides, I'm just going to give a few vignettes about some of the projects that we've been doing. The first one is at the guidance and navigation level, so it's things like localization and trajectory tracking. So last year, the students participated in a challenge organized by DJI, the drone company, together with Ford. So they were interested in the interaction, in particular, between ground vehicles and aerial vehicles. And one of the tasks was to land a drone on the back of a pickup truck. And so here you can see the experiments that the students carried. So that involves them learning about guidance, learning about sensor fusion. So on board we have a number of vision sensors. We have GPS on the car to kind of figure out where the car is. And we have inertial sensors, of course, and so on. And so you have to use all this to kind of track the car, and end up landing on they ended up managing to land on the car at speeds up to 50 kilometers per hour. And here there is actually no collaboration per se from the car. The car is doing its own thing, and so then after that, at the system level, you can think about how can you use a system like that to say optimize interactions between ground vehicles and aerial vehicles at the level of, say, a logistics system where, ground vehicles have certain advantages in terms of, say, autonomy and battery life and so on, and drones have other advantages in terms of, so for example, accessing certain spaces. At the level of, in terms of flight control, so there is a project in the lab, a fairly large project in the lab, where we collaborate with industry partners to develop a large tandem drone that will be able to carry a payload of 90 kilograms, so a standard payload of 90 kilograms. And so this is an example of a type of project that is carried by, industry in cooperation with academia, and driven by one of the consortium that we have for aerospace research. We have another one, so this one is CARIC at the level of Canada, and we have another one at the level of Quebec or CRIAC, and there are other consortia such as Aero Montreal, I think, which all kind of try to bring universities and industry together to carry out advanced R&D projects. At the level of autonomy, perception, planning, and so on, what we're interested in is really, as the name of the lab suggests, is autonomy. So we want to remove the pilot as much as possible from the loop. And so one of the applications, for example, could be in things like inspection of civil structures. We have projects, for example, in inspection of wind turbines. And so the idea is, you want to, say, press a button and have a drone fly around the turbine and make sure it takes all the views that it needs in order to afterwards do diagnostic on, say, detecting defaults and so on the blades. And so if you're imagining now having, say, instead of having one pilot per drone, having, say, one pilot for 10 drones and 10 drones mapping a wind farm in parallel, then you need a lot of autonomy at the drone level in terms of making sure that all the views are covered. The drone has to know where it is in its mission, when it's done mapping and so on. So here again we are working with an industry partner. So we are using actually German drones for many of our projects. We have drones from Ascending Technologies for research, and here you see a drone from Microdrone. We are interested in things like we heard about, say, deep learning and AI and so on. I would say that machine perception has made a lot of progress in the last few years, yes. But it's in terms of things like detecting an object and an image and so on, and there's still a lot of work in terms of using that kind of information to afterwards, build a real a model of the world and reasoning about that model. And for that, there hasn't been as much progress, I would say. And so here you see, for example, a kind of task that for which robots still struggle is just finding an object inside a room where there is a lot of clutter. So it has an image of the object that it's looking for, but it has to take decisions in terms of where to search and so on. And you can imagine that there are applications for aerial robotics as well. We work on multi-robot systems. I'm just going to try to go to conclude briefly here. Multi-robot systems bring things such as cooperative localization, communication aspects, and in fact localization and communications are very much related. So we are interested in things like deploying groups of drones inside buildings. So there you work with short-range communication, ultra-wideband, and so on. Deploying drones, say, for Arctic missions. So there you have you can imagine having very large networks spanning very large areas and using things more like satellite communications and so on. So we're interested in things like collaborations between drones, as I mentioned, interaction with supervisory operators and so on. Okay, so I'm just going to conclude here. I'm just going to say that we are interested, of course, in developing more collaborations with the German colleagues. We've had, for example, a master student in the lab from Stuttgart writing his master's thesis, and actually he wrote his master's thesis on on developing GPS spoofing methods for drones. So we mentioned security at one point, and that's definitely one issue that we're looking at. And there are lots of opportunities, I think, even at the grad level for student exchanges between Quebec and Bavaria in particular, or possibly other programs such run by the DAAD. And so, for example, I will be most likely spending the next year in Munich. And so, if there is any interest in the German side, you can contact me.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jérôme. Frank, the cars could be part of the next drone games, no? I really like that, especially the poor chap running around with the skate behind. Jérôme, I will make sure that whoever wants to offer internships to Quebecois students can give me the business card, and I pass it on to the organizers so that you might get addresses. Okay, questions from the audience in Montreal or here in Berlin?
No questions here, Alex.
Okay, no questions here neither. Okay, so thank you very much once again for this very lively presentation. And we will turn now to our concluding panel of the conference. Thank you very much, Jérôme. Thank you.